Shove it, man!
Alright, Shove It Squad, so everybody seems to be quite hyped for the Hurt Business in WWE. It's something a bit different, it's not wacky or goofy, and the guys in the group are all pretty legit. It's MVP as the leader, with Lashley, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. They have a great balance of talkers, heavyweights and cruiserweights. But would it shock you to know that this isn't the first time MVP has led a very similar group? And this group that I'm talking about today ended in complete disaster, and caused TNA massive embarrassment. The way this group ended was so bad it has to go down on a list as one of the worst factions of all time. And no, that's not a knock on any of the guys involved, so stop whining, stop complaining, and shut up or I'll smack you one. I'm going to get onto some Patreon request videos after this one. Oliver Scott has been threatening to dropkick me into a tree. I'll have you know, Oliver, that I was the Shepton Mallet 2007 under-16 quarter-finalist in tree climbing, so you can shove it. Hold on to your hawks because it's time to look at the Beatdown Clan, the starter version of the Hurt Business.
Hey you brother! Make sure you subscribe or I'll make you suffer!
So this group can trace their roots back to 2014 TNA. A lot of you had just stopped watching because most of the stars had left, so this might be a new story for some of you. The Beatdown Clan, or often shortened to the BDC, was a group without a name for a very long time. It was MVP, Lashley and Kenny King. And although they were never referred to as the Beatdown Clan at the time, the BDC did form from this original group. So they count, alright? MVP had been in TNA a couple of months and was feuding with Dixie Carter over ownership of the company, only a couple of years after getting it back from Eric and the Hawk. God, this woman is stupid. And surprise, surprise, she lost control to MVP in a lethal lockdown match as her Dixieland faction was beaten. Everybody expected MVP to be pushed to the moon as the ex-WWE guy, and now he was the storyline owner of TNA. After a quick heel turn, MVP went on to challenge Eric Young for his World Heavyweight title. It was around this time that Bobby Lashley re-debuted for TNA. He hadn't been seen since the start of 2010 in TNA, and given how bad his last run was, nobody was happy to see him again. Kenny King, the third man in this group, had been in TNA for over a year at this point, and had been in the X Division, but was a bit underwhelming. He was taken off TV for a while, but when he returned, both Lashley and King joined up with MVP on the same night as a heel faction. So this is the BDC version 1.0. Some people called them the MLK Alliance, but yeah, they weren't given an actual name. MVP was scheduled to face Eric Young at Slammiversary 2014 and challenge for the world title, and the story goes that MVP was going to win this title. However, a week before the match, MVP suffered a torn meniscus and was unable to compete. In a way, this turned out to be a blessing in disguise, although we were constantly reminded that MVP was injured for months afterwards. Lashley was substituted into his place, and although he was unsuccessful in challenging for the title, he was now a main eventer because MVP was unable to be so. MVP spent the next month recovering from his injury but managing King and Lashley. Once recovered, MVP lost the ownership of TNA to Kurt Angle, although he did have time to stack the deck and help Lashley win his first TNA World Heavyweight Championship. I forgot to mention they had amazing entrance music that was rapped by MVP. It's quite similar to his WWE music, but better in ways. There's lots of clever references in the lyrics to TNA, and lots of shots at WWE. Things stayed much the same for the next 4 months. Lashley was the dominant champion, MVP was the mouthpiece, and Kenny King was he was the weakest member of the group. If anyone had to take a loss, it was always him. They presented him as a cocky loudmouth who never backed up his words. It was a shame because he was pretty entertaining. Lashley lost the title to Bobby Roode, but they needn't have bothered switching the titles. Impact was ditched by Spike TV, and what followed was the worst 2 months of any wrestling TV programme in the history of wrestling, as Impact was basically on life support, and all they showed for the next 2 months was reruns of previous shows on Spike. If you managed to sit through this every week, you must have been insane. TNA eventually got a new deal with Destination America, and this started in January 2015, with the trio of MVP, Lashley and King largely the focus of the show. There was a brilliant opening video which ended with the entire TNA roster in the street, and Kenny King throwing the first punch. If you get a chance, go back and watch it because it was very well produced and it was cool to see Bobby Roode being the locker room leader in this video. Lashley regained his world title on the very first show. MVP turned up during the match with Kenny King and 2 other guys in hoodies. Now pause here and take a deep breath because this is about to get random and bad. Up to now, the Beatdown Clown version 1.0 was great. You had MVP being awesome on the mic and you had Lashley destroying all his opponents in great matches. Apart from Kenny King's weak booking, I have no complaints about the first version of the group. But things were about to change. This is the Beatdown Clan version 2.0. The 2 masked men revealed themselves to be Low Key and Samoa Joe. Eric Young then stormed the ring with a steel chair, but he also turned on Bobby Roode in the match. So it was basically 6-on-1. The next week MVP said that Joe and Low Ki joined them because they knew him from his indie days. Couldn't Joe have just gone on his own and gotten a push? They weren't exactly packed with stars at this point. It should have been his time. They wore hoodies and beanies and had the most generic rap music you've ever heard. The only thing that seemed to link these guys together was that they all wrestled the strong style. Apart from that, they were completely random. Low Ki quickly won the X Division title. It wasn't all roses though, as Lashley fell out with MVP because he was sick of being bossed about. MVP told him if he doesn't want to be shucking and jiving and singing gospel music, he needed to get back in line. Lashley didn't get back in line, so the clan gave him a beatdown. Okay, seriously, they got new theme music pretty quickly, with MVP again rapping on the music. It was a good song, but for some reason it didn't sound very good on TV, it just didn't translate well, I'm not sure why. MVP was now the main eventer of the group and feuded with Lashley. They did a lot of 5-on-1 beatings and they had the catchphrase, "The Beatdown Clan ain't nothing to mess with." It wasn't perfect, but it had a kind of gritty feel to it. Eric Young was not a good fit for the group though. He kind of had his own agenda and was just feuding with Bobby Roode, and then he just kind of drifted away from the group. I'm not even sure if I should count him as a member. Surprisingly, MVP still didn't take the title from Lashley. This must have been one of the first and only times that TNA did not put the title on the ex-WWE guy. Samoa Joe and Kenny King remained directionless, and it felt like they were being wasted. Joe obviously felt the same way, and he quit TNA in February 2015. One down. For some reason, TNA felt like having loads of pointless faction members was essential. So what did they do? Well, they added a new member, as Homicide returned to TNA after being absent for a few years. I figured it out now, most of these guys have a New York connection. Apart from Joe, he just eats there a lot. Low Ki lost the X Division title to Rockstar Spud, but then Kenny King won it back for the Beatdown Clan pretty quickly, but then he lost it to Spud again. Kenny King was booked so badly in TNA. It's crazy that people think he was one of the worst TNA wrestlers of all time. He could have been money. And he certainly wasn't the worst of all time, just terrible booking. The Beatdown Clan then added yet another member as Hernandez returned to TNA. Hernandez had been competing for Lucha Underground up to this point in the main events. This is going to be very relevant in a minute, so keep this in your minds, you idiots. That same night, Low Ki quit TNA after losing an X Division title match, because he always quits. He just doesn't seem to play well with others. 2 down. It was then revealed that Lucha Underground was seeking legal action against TNA, because Hernandez was still under contract with Lucha Underground, but he turned up on TNA TV. MVP had reportedly vouched for him, and Hernandez also said that he was a free agent. He wasn't. Because Hernandez appeared in all the pre-recorded BDC segments for 6 episodes, they had to pull half the show. What idiots! All the episodes at the time were bad and heavily edited because all the Beatdown Clan stuff had to be pulled. TNA were unable to show anything involving Hernandez on their show again. Why didn't TNA just speak with someone at Lucha Underground first instead of just taking the wrestlers' words for it? TNA were so angry and embarrassed about the situation that they released MVP, 3 down, and they had to get rid of Hernandez because he was never theirs in the first place, 4 down. Kenny King was taken off TV and released a couple of months later, 5 down. Homicide had barely appeared with the BDC because he was injured. In fact, he didn't wrestle a single match as part of the group, but when he returned, he was also released from TNA. 6 down, and they're all down. So the Beatdown Clan was such a disaster that within the space of 5 months, 6 talented wrestlers left the company. What a disaster this second version of the group was. TNA in 2015 was a depressing mess, and they're idiots for letting this happen. The second version of the group did not win the World Heavyweight title or the tag titles. No stars were created, and it all ended with TNA being laughed at once again by the fans. Let me know down below if you can think of a faction that ended as badly as this one. It has to be one of the worst endings to a faction in the history of wrestling. Nothing good came out of it. Word to the WWE, the Hurt Business can be good. You have 4 members. That is enough. Do not add any more members. Do not bring in any more of MVP's friends, and under no circumstances, WWE, should you ever let MVP vouch that a wrestler is a free agent.